right, what's up? We are live. It's Thursday night, which means it's Master Chat night. I'm a little louder than normal, I think, because I actually had a cup of coffee tonight because I was like there. I just had like a string of meetings all day long, which was awesome, like because I get to talk to a lot of people. But then I'm like, I think I need a coffee for Master Chat, and then I'm like, maybe I shouldn't have went with the big cup. But here I am, and I'm loving your hoodie.
Thank you. Yes.
I'm digging it. I'm just gonna go right in before we start saying hi to people. Like, something that I love about you is you are typically, and I don't know whether you actually try and put a lot of effort in or if it's just natural. You're normally like so done up, looking good. Like you're professional looking because you're on camera a lot. Like you seem like you're always ready. But then I love you jumping tonight. You're like, nah, hoodie. And I love that because you like some people get really worried and they're like, oh, I gotta be all dressed up and stuff. I'm like, I don't know. I have a polo on tonight. That's about as dressed up as I get for lives, right? So I just appreciate that about you. So I see Amanda's here. Good to see Amanda's in the Facebook group. Kate is, I assume, on our page. Livia's here. Hi, Livia. Did you miss the chat? What are you doing?
She was working.
Get it together, British Columbia. Come on. Mark's here. Good to see you. Dave is here and so jealous right now. I just know it. Who's that? That's not popping up. Someone's not popping up there. Oh, that's Maggie. So we got Amanda and Maggie with like the dream team going on here. So super excited. If you are watching, if you're chiming in wherever you're at, we're on Facebook, both on our page and our private group. We're on YouTube. We're on Periscope and Twitter. We're on Twitch. Wherever you're at, drop us a comment. Say hi to Lindsay. Let us know where you're at. Both on the platform, but from where, I guess. So, Livia had Meet the Teacher conference. Okay. I'll let it go, Livia, for this time. So Lindsay, awesome chat.
Thank you.
Always an important subject and topic to go around, like just behavior and stuff, and that's obviously like what you do. The topic tonight was back to the basics with behavior. How are you feeling right now? Like after, I know you said that was a lot of work, so like you can be honest here. This is a safe space. How are your fingers feeling? Like, how you doing?
No, I'm feeling really good. I am glad I pre-did like my answers and my, the questions, because I felt like it did. I felt like I could really focus in on the amazing conversations and the amazing things that people were sharing. And it was both, I got a sense from, I feel really good about this part, like confident in this, and here's how I'm growing. And for me, when it comes to behavior, that's it. Like, it's always growth, because behavior is everything we do. And so I'm feeling really good. I mean, I could talk for days on behavior. So having, an hour, like intense conversation, it felt like I'm on cloud 9. Like, I feel really good about it. But yeah, it took me those first 10 minutes. I was like, okay, here we go. It's like you got to be ready for it.
Love it. Jeff Prickett's in the house. I gotta call Jeff Prickett out because he always says that he's like a Team Jeff and stuff. But I don't see him on many of these lives until I bring Lindsay on. Then here comes Jeff out of the woodwork. So I gotta do some call outs here because I'm looking at, we got quite a few people watching and only two likes and hearts. So can we hit the like button or the heart button, or just tap the screen if you're watching on Periscope, Twitter, because that'll do it, and show Lindsay some love here. I know we have a few people watching on Twitter, and I'm only seeing one person commenting from Twitter, so I don't like that. Raymond, good to see you, sir. They're all here. I see. Prove it, Jeff. I'm seeing all kinds of hearts coming out. So just so you know, I'm pointing. I have a second screen up here that I have us in a group, and someone's going ballistic on the hearts, so I'm loving it. Appreciating that, guys. Good stuff to do. Dave says drop-ins, blogs, podcast, master chat, LT is doing all the things, and I love it. I gotta. Jeff, I'm just messing with you, buddy. Later, I'll apologize. I apologize. We're going to talk more about the chat, but Dave's making me think of something. So if you were not with us live yesterday during Dave and I doing our brain break, you need to go back and watch the video, because we had Megan Anderson come on just kind of because she was in the chat talking about running, and she shared a story that's going to hit you right here so hard you're not going to know what to do. And Dave and I have some plans for building off that story. So I need you to check that out. So Nikki's here. Good to see you, Nikki, saying awesome chat. Had to make an appearance. Hey, we're just glad you're here. And yes, we all knew Lindsay would have an awesome chat. So Lindsay, as you're putting together the questions for the chat tonight, I always like to talk about, like, what were you thinking? What was your goal? What were you hoping that people were going to either take away, walk away with, or think through tonight when going through these questions?
Yeah, so I think when it comes to behavior, from my experience, what often happens is our brains go to, we want the specific answer. So I have this student, this behavior, I need a specific strategy. And my goal tonight was to really go back and make it broad. And let's go back to the basics. So let's think about being proactive. Let's think about, how do we incorporate student voice? Let's think about, how do we share our calm? Because those basic things that we've all heard, you know, time and time and time again, are truly what are going to strengthen those connections. So it's not about the next best strategy. It's not about the next best thing. It's about really understanding them at another level so we can actually take action on them. We don't take action if we don't understand. So my goal was to really get people to rethink, like, I do know this. I am confident. I can be an expert in behavior, even if I'm not, you know, a behavior specialist or behavior analyst. You have the knowledge, I promise you, inside. We just sometimes have to take that step back, scale it down, bring it back to the basics. And that's what I loved through the chat. You know, the buzzwords I was seeing: relationships, connection, voice, you know, my own emotions, my own triggers. Like, those two are the basics.
And so it sounds like you feel like people got what you were going for out of this. The conversations were there. So it's always good. It usually happens. We got a pretty good crew, this Master Chat family. So it typically works out that way. Were there any answers, additional tweets, conversations, themes that were going on? And you don't have to, like, recall specific. I don't expect that. But anything that was going on that popped in and really caught your attention, whether with excitement and happiness, or maybe shock, confusion, or something that maybe introduced you to a thought or a process maybe you hadn't thought of before? Anything that's coming to mind right now that kind of popped up?
So I think I was kind of hoping it would go this way, and so I'm glad it did. But it went a little bit even further than I thought maybe it would. So the question that was on behavior bias. So we know bias right now, and culturally responsive teaching, that's so evident. And why I incorporated that is because I wanted people to think about, there is bias for behavior. There are, you know, before we even meet students, we have thoughts in our heads based on maybe what we've heard, based on maybe we had their sibling, based on a name, based on culture. Like, it's not, again, I'm not going to go like the right or wrong judgment, but it happens. And I think if we're not aware of that, if we're not aware that we have our own behavior bias, it limits us from making those stronger connections. And I think there was a lot of people that tied culture in, Che and Cav tied culture into a lot of their responses, because it's not culture and behavior. I mean, it's all interconnected. And so I love that that's where the conversation went, because for me, if we are going to have this global understanding of what is behavior and how do we understand that behavior is actually a solution, not a problem, it's a solution to a problem, we have to also understand our own bias as well as culturally relevant teaching when it comes to behavior. So I was excited that it went that way, because I think that is, when we talk about next level, like, that's where we have to take it, instead of just saying this behavior is right or wrong. There is no right or wrong behavior. It's expected, maybe unexpected, but doesn't mean it's ever wrong.
I love that. And when you talk about the bias and you look at your own internal bias, that self-awareness is so crucial. And I'm actually thinking, on my ride this morning, I listened to your podcast talking about limiting beliefs. And you were talking about going back and realizing that a lot of this stuff comes from when we were kids, right? And the whole life, and our bias around this also comes from that, from the way we were raised, the way we were maybe punished or not punished for certain activities, the way our friends and family behaved, and that all goes to our culture, right? It's all built in there. So you're nodding, so I assume I'm saying things that are agreeable. So that's good. What's up to Che? Che is actually here. You were just talking about him. He's in the chat right now too. So
happy birthday!
Yeah, happy birthday! I didn't even realize it. I feel horrible that I didn't know it was his birthday. I'm going to throw something in the chat here. So if you would like Lindsay's awesome hoodie, I'm throwing a link in the comments that should pop up on everything you're in right now. And then if you use the code, I was just doing this sneakily behind the scenes. If you use the code during checkout that I'm putting in right now too, you can get 25% off your whole order there. So Teach Better swag for that. Anyway, so I want to do that just because I like doing that when we're on with someone. So Lindsay, oh, that's not the code. Don't put that code in. Just how to spell. It's Lindsay Rocks because she's not Lindsay. Maybe that's a new type of rock. I don't know. But Lindsay Rocks over at teachbetterswag.com. We'll get you anything, but I also put in the specific sweatshirt. That sweatshirt's in a couple different colors and stuff too. I love that you're rocking that. So anyway, and you know, then I get to say Lindsay Rocks a bunch of times. So let me do that. I like to throw. Well, you know what? Let me do this first. I'm going to throw a couple questions at you, but I didn't do this at the start. I just assumed everyone knew who you were, and that's not always fair. So let's go back and pretend that Jeff did this at the beginning. But can you tell for anybody who's maybe connect with it? Because some people do come and watch this, and they're not necessarily connected in the chat because they can't be there, so they may not be already connected with you. Also, maybe some people who just now connected with you because of the chat or because of this video. So for anybody who doesn't know you, can you give us the lowdown of who is Lindsay Titus and why?
Yeah. Yes. So I am by day K-12 behavior specialist. So I'm a board certified behavior analyst, licensed behavior analyst in New York. So I do all things behavior, which really is everything, because as we've been talking about, behavior is everything we do. So I work for a local school district. So I support kindergarten through 12th grade, actually preschool to transition program. So even more than that. And then after school, I'm the founder of Define University. So educational coaching, consulting, and speaking business where I coach educators on all things mindset and behavior, and really owning who we are so that we can define who we are and we can bring that into the classroom. And so through Define You, I do coaching, I have a podcast, email, all those kinds of things. And then I do a whole bunch of things for Teach Better, like blog and show up here and just ambassador. And
any like maybe upcoming new and exciting news about the podcast or anything like that?
The podcast might be on the Teach Better Podcast Network.
Coming very soon to the network.
Coming very soon.
Super excited about that. Love your podcast. Like I said, I was listening to it this morning. So you know, and anybody who knows me will know what the power of this is. Is like I'm getting ready to get on my bike this morning. I'm doing good this week of getting up early like I used to, getting back into things. And I'm getting ready, and I do podcasts most of the time. And I open up my podcast app, and I've got 12 episodes of Gary Vee lined up, and I'm like, nope, Lindsay first. Just so you know, this morning you sucker punched Gary Vee and you won. So congratulations on that.
Thank you. Thank you. I take that one to heart. That's a good one.
But I really enjoy the show. I'm super excited to have it on the network as well. All right, now I want to throw a couple of your questions back just at you live here. So I'm gonna look. Let me see what I want here. So actually, this is one that I feel like most people had a good handle on, and I agreed with 99% of what I saw out there and stuff like that. But I really want to hear. I don't know if I actually saw your question come through or your answer come through, which is one of my favorite parts about Master Chat is that we're both in there, but we both have very different experiences. Right. And there's sometimes where it's like question 3 when I realized I'm like, oh, I didn't know Livy was, or Livy wasn't with us today, but I didn't know so-and-so was here today or whatever. I'm giving her a hard time. And I didn't realize I'm like, oh, they haven't been here since the start. I just didn't see their stuff. So, let me throw this one. This was question number 2. Question number 1. What does it mean to you when you hear to be proactive when it comes to behavior interventions? So can you run that down, the proactive thought behind that?
Yeah. So I think like you said, I think people nailed it. Like they got it. And that proactive is, what are we doing to really reduce the likelihood that a behavior is going to happen? So it's not that, so it's honestly, behaviors will happen. That's a blanket statement. They will happen. We will have proactive strategies. We will have reactive strategies. So I was glad to see that it wasn't, one is good. Again, one is good and one is bad. It's so we can fall so quickly into that, this or that. And I live in the world of and, right? We get to have both. But I also believe in prioritizing our energy. So if I'm going to prioritize my energy reactively, well, that means the behavior is always happening because I'm reacting to it. So instead, let's shift and let's put our focus on proactive. So to me, that is meeting the students' needs before they even know their needs need to be met. So providing that safety, providing power and control, choice and voice, allowing, creating sense of belonging, right? Creating that community relationship, because all of those things are going to provide those basic needs, our human needs, and therefore problems can be solved by having the needs. They won't have to engage in a separate behavior. Behavior happens because one of their needs is not being met to the fullest extent. So I think for me, that's how I break it down. But again, it's not that one is right or one is wrong. We will have behavior, therefore we will have reactive strategies. But if we're focused there, that's what we're going to find. We're going to find more behaviors. Yeah. So I think a lot of people, touched on the relationships and teaching, being ready for them. I think that's huge, right? Being ready, talking to your students about them. If this happens, this is how I will, respond. This is what I will do. And I think you can let your parents know that too, to a certain extent. Obviously not so specific that you're like, putting yourself into this like box kind of system, but to say, this is what happens. And this is how we establish our classroom community. So for me, that's what I look for.
So I love the EM because I think it is so easy to go, well, no, you got to be proactive. You can't be reactive. But like you just said, we're going to have behavior no matter what. You can be as proactive as you want. That doesn't mean you're never going to be taken by surprise. You're never going to see something you weren't planning for or never saw before. So you're going to have to be reactive. I like that we have focus our energy on proactive because it then not prevents, but hopefully potentially limits how often we have to be reactive. But when we do have to inevitably be reactive, what are some thoughts on how we can be the most effective reactive? Is that the way most effectively reactive in situations when we have to be reactive because we're not ready for it? What are some of the ways that we can be the best at that or more prepared for that, I guess, is probably the better way to go.
Yeah. So I think part of it is kind of mapping out what you're going to do before you're in it. So just like we can't expect a student in the midst of a crisis situation to utilize a brand new coping strategy, if you are faced with a behavior that you really haven't thought about or haven't seen, you too, as the adult, will be in your fight or flight response. And so I think it's important, and this is where it is, looking at your own triggers and what triggers you. Because for me, if a student has their head down and they're not engaging, okay. For me, they're in the classroom, they're still there. That's, to me, that's okay. I've worked with staff where that's like a significant behavior for them because they're not used to that. So I think this first strategy is to really map out with people, what am I going to do? And I think a lot of it relates to keeping that mindset of they are in need of something. The student needs something. The student is missing something, and I can figure that out with them. That it's not the behavior happens and I need to fix it. So that was another theme I saw through the chat tonight, which was great, that we aren't fixing it, right? We want to teach students how to take care of themselves and their needs, and we're going to help them do that. We're going to coach and mentor and guide them and support them. I think, when that behavior happens, it's remembering to, listening. One of my favorites is listening to what they're saying, not how they're saying it. So if a student is angry, what they're saying often makes a lot of sense. The delivery isn't the greatest.
Yeah.
So in the midst of it, it's not time for a grammar lesson, right? In the midst of it, it's not time for we don't speak to adults that way. In the midst of it, it's, you sound really angry about that. I hear you. Let's have a conversation about that. We can talk about the how later, but let's bring it back.
It's like when a child's having an irrational breakdown or meltdown, and you try to have a rational conversation with them. You can't rationalize with them. No. You need to get them back to it, right? And I love that you said it's not. I'm not gonna say this like you did. It's not how they're saying, it's what they're saying, right? And I think when it comes to our reaction to that, it's the same thing, because you can say all the right things, but if you don't say it the right way, because you're being triggered by the reaction and being angry or frustrated or whatever, that's going to then cause the wrong reaction to them because you're not listening. So I think the preparation is so key, because then you can be ready. And I think the key is what you said, is listening and going, okay, so when that happens, I've been telling myself I'm ready for this. They're telling me something. So don't get upset. Don't get stressed.
Right.
I can vent later if I have to. Right now, I got to listen to them and figure out what are they not getting. I think that's so powerful. That's powerful, not even just from, I mean, for me I'm in a classroom as a parent. That's powerful. So I'm sitting going, I wonder if Lindsay does parent coaching. Just saying.
Well, and to piggyback off of that, though, it's one, I think another piece is we don't always have to say anything, right? Like there's
love
in just listening. And I love, again, the word listen and silent have the same letters, right? So in order to listen, we have to be silent. We don't always have to say something back, but I think we're so programmed to always talk, right? So it's so important to be like, there's so much power in the nonverbal language. Your eye contact, even with a mask on, like we can do these things. We can still shake our head. We can still show caring gestures, even through a mask or social distancing. And it doesn't have to be different. I think part of the reason I threw, which one was it? Question 6, where it was talking about, if you have another teacher that's jumping to like a consequence instead of being proactive. If you read through the comments, it's a lot of the same things that we were talking about earlier with the students. Because behavior is behavior. And so it comes down to modeling. It comes down to showing grace. It comes down to asking questions. It's all the same, regardless if you're going through a role of teacher, parent, staff to staff, whatever it is. And to me, that's the simple and easy way. You don't have to think of 10 different ways. Just bring it back to the basics.
And that's a great point, because like the same, you're dealing with parents, right? Right now, like everyone's under stress. So when a parent's coming at you, maybe not in a nice way, they're not being served, their needs not being met in some way or another. Listen to it. Same with your colleagues, your boss, right? Ray, I have to really think about this and remember this when I'm dealing with Ray now. Oh, this is great. This can be good for me. I want to say to Joe, I saw Joe pop in. Good to see you, Joe. Sorry, I have to throw the Ray slide in, don't I? I'm gonna throw one more question at you, if that's all right. This was a good one, because I think you'll be able to maybe rattle off some examples, ideas. Question 5 was, sharing our calm is essential, especially when students are elevated themselves. How do you share calm in the classroom setting? So this is one I assume you're talking with teachers a lot, with both in your day role and your out of school role. What are some of the strategies that you often talk through and see work for us to be, sharing our calm in a classroom setting, in both when we're in classrooms or when we're in virtual classrooms? Yeah.
So somebody, and I can't remember, I have to go back and look, but I wrote it down. Somebody wrote, before you can share your calm, you have to find your calm.
Wow,
and I was like, yes. And because it's so true, right? You can't give something away. You can give something that you don't have yourself. And I think that goes for anything, right? I think kids very quickly figure out if we're faking it. Kids very quickly, adults can too. So if you don't truly feel it, we got to figure that out first. A couple ways that I've taught myself to do that are I do energy checks through the day. So, I just, as I'm going through my day, and it started, so probably like 2-3 years ago when I was starting this work, I would set timers on my phone and reminders, and every 3 hours, I had a reminder that just came up and said energy check-in time. And I would just figure out where am I right now? Do I need to, am I going up? Am I going down? What do I need? And now I just naturally do it throughout the day. I also, because I go in and out of classrooms, in and out of schools, I use, it's actually from Brendan Burchard, a door trigger. So anytime I go through a door, I say a positive statement. I am a positive person in this classroom. I am bringing light to everyone in this room. I am here to listen and help as needed. Whatever it is, whatever I'm feeling that day. And so that, again, helps me to recenter, bring it back to the present moment, because that, to me, if I can be present, then I can share my calm. I've also learned to pay attention to my own personal trigger points physically. So for me, actually, ironically, I shared this morning on Instagram. I feel it at the back of my neck when I'm getting angry, when I'm getting frustrated. So as soon as those muscles start to tense up, I'm like, oh, Lindsay's not calm anymore.
I like that.
And so I do my own, you know, and it's not anything major. It's just like, it's literally a deep breath. It's like, get back to your center, and then keep going. Remember why I'm here. Remember the purpose. Yeah. And then one other last thing is I put visuals, right? So like these behind me aren't just for like, this is what I do. They're to remind me of it. And so I think if you, even having the words, share my calm, or having a picture in your room, your classroom, or if you're home, have it in your office, that you know when you look at that, that is your signal to take that breath. That's your signal to pause. That's your signal to bring it back to the moment so that you can reconnect with your students in that moment.
I love that. So, well, first off, Pav's here, and she says she believes it was Brad Hughes, and that makes sense because Brad's always dropping knowledge. So, love that. I gotta get scrolling across the bottom because I've actually seen a couple orders coming already. So, just it's working. So, if you use code Lindsay Rocks over at teachbetterswag.com, 25% off. That's off your entire order, by the way, and there's no limits to the use, so you can come back and use it again. Just saying. But if you want to rock a hoodie like Lindsay,
it's so comfy.
They're super comfy. I like it. Anyway, so I really appreciate you. Always appreciate you. Really appreciate you leading us tonight, coming on afterwards and hanging out with us a little bit. Would you like to? I'm gonna. This is gonna sound stupid because I was gonna say like the floor is yours. I'm like, it's been yours the whole time. Like last couple minutes here. Anything you want to just say right now to leave it to anyone who's hanging out with us or watching this later? To just make sure they leave this live video with the right Lindsay Rocksness. Is that a word?
Sure.
I'm making all kinds of crazy stuff.
It's better than being a rock. So
whatever. I'm going to shut up. You talk now.
I think my biggest thing is when it comes to behavior is trust in who you are. Like, you know, and trust, bring it back to your value, bring it back to your why, bring it back to why you went into this profession. We didn't go in to minimize behavior. We went in to increase skill sets. So keep your mindset on the skill set, keep your mindset on the movement you're making forward. Celebrate all the things, celebrate those, you know, tiny steps to success, because in order to get to the top of a staircase, we have to start with one step. And for some of our students, that is logging into a virtual classroom for 30 seconds. And if that's where we're starting, then that's where we're starting. And that is a celebration. And then we go to 45 seconds and a minute. If you're in class and the student comes into classroom, that's the celebration. Bring it back to these basics and trust that you know exactly what to do. You can do these things because you are all about student voice, relationships, and connections. And to me, that is the foundation to anything to do with behavior. So
I love it. We're going to leave it at that. We will see you all back next week, same time, same place, 8 o'clock Eastern over on Twitter for Master Chat. And then we'll be back here right around 9 o'clock Eastern time for the recap. Lindsay, thank you so much. Appreciate you so much. You hang out, but we're gonna head out here. So appreciate all you. Have an awesome rest of your night. Good Friday tomorrow, and into a great weekend. Appreciate y'all.